Welcome to my dungeon.
Welcome to Kuldrin's Krypt. I'm your host, Master Kuldrin. If you're new to the show, this is a place to dispel myths, get rid of stereotypes, and answer your questions about BDSM. You can call in at 865-268-4005 to leave your questions or visit the Krypt at kuldrinskrypt.com. On this episode of the Krypt, we're going to be interviewing a very special guest, Irish Dragon. I have to also welcome my amazing co-host, Fun Size. How are you doing today?
I'm really good. How are you?
I am doing just lovely now that we've got all these technical issues out of the way. It's, as you are aware, it's been an interesting start to this episode so far.
Indeed.
Before we get into the main topic, I have a couple of things to bring up as I've started doing recently. First, I'd like to thank our Patreon supporter, the Accidental Trucker. He's been around since the beginning of the show. He gives $1 a month, and if you are getting anything out of this podcast, we would appreciate it if you would go to kuldrinskrypt.com, click on the Support Us tab, and find out how you can give a donation. You can give as little as $1 a month up to $25, and of course, at each level, there are rewards such as stickers, t-shirts, and hoodies. And second, I would like to thank Lily at BDSMcontracts.org. She has given us a few copies of their 25-page hard and soft-bound contracts to give away. If you would like to be part of the monthly giveaways, find us on Facebook. Just search for Kuldrin's Krypt and join the page. Also, if you go to bdsmcontracts.org, use the coupon code Kuldrin20 to receive a 20% discount off of all purchases. And finally, before we get into this interview, the rules to love by. First, safe, sane, consensual, and informed. Second, Kinky from the Kinky app, available on all platforms. That stands for knowledge, no intolerance, kindness, and integrity. And finally, submission is not about authority, and it's not about obedience. It is all about relationships of love and respect. The words of Mr. Paul Young. Hey, Krypt listeners, this is Master Kuldrin, and this is a very special episode dedicated to Fun Size and IrishMTDragon for their 1-year anniversary. This episode is being published on August 31st, 2017, which is their anniversary. When Fun Size told me that it was going to be this week, I asked her to record a special message. So here it is. And again, happy 1-year anniversary to you two.
I just have one thing to say. Happy anniversary to my wonderful, kinky, loving, and above all, understanding husband. You make every part of my life amazing, and I am so lucky to share all of my experiences with you. I love you, Dragon.
All right. Now, IrishMTDragon, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Here at the Krypt, we like to start off with some rapid-fire questions to get to know you a little bit, called 10 Licks, and see where we can go from there. So, would you consent to that?
Sure.
All right. How long have you been into kink?
I'd say probably since I hit 18, probably before that, seeing stuff on sites, browsing. If my grandparents had found me, yeah, I would probably have been given a stern lecture.
Since you were 18, and how old are you now, if I may?
I am 30 years old.
So about 12 years. Top, bottom, or switch?
I'd say dom, top.
Relationship status?
My status is married.
Okay. Favorite position?
I really don't know if I exactly have one. I mean, the moment I guess you could say doggy style, I guess. I don't know.
Favorite implement to use on others?
Not a lot of experience in using a lot of different implements, but as it stands for things I have available, I'd say rope or cuffs.
What about to be used on yourself?
Again, not a lot of experience.
Okay.
So I'll go with rope.
Favorite role play?
Honestly, that one I couldn't say. I've any.
You greedy little bugger.
I'm open to things. I mean, despite considering myself a dom or a top, if you will, I like to try and keep things open. I don't focus on just my pleasure. I try to make sure whoever I'm with is equally pleased and satisfied. So,
of course. So you do things the right way, in my opinion. Favorite kink or fetish?
I'd have to say one of the things I really enjoy I like biting and leaving marks. I like to be able to just bite on someone's neck or wrist, either gently or rough.
Now, would this be in any particular frame of mind, like vampirism, primal play?
I'd say probably along the lines of primal play, considering an abstract belief I have involving things. I consider myself, I am a person. At the same time, I consider myself like a knight or a warrior, if you will. But one of the things I consider myself as well is a dragon. So that's part where my name comes from.
Cool. So like a Renaissance type of fetish there, or role play. Cool.
More or less, I guess.
Favorite place for kink?
Again, not a lot of experience, so bedroom.
Strangest place you've ever had sex?
Strangest place?
Uh-huh.
Got me on that one for a second. Would you say attempts would count for this question?
Sure.
An attempt with a former person I used to be with. We once tried down by the river.
Okay. Something that you want to try?
I would really like to try and get more into rope and suspending someone and the whole bondage element. Like I said, my actual experience for things is very limited, sadly. So.
Oh, that's not a problem. We all have to start somewhere. All right. Now, for those of you who don't know, IrishMTDragon is a newbie to our community. As he said, there's not a lot of things he's tried. He has been into kink for a very long time, but really just getting started in fulfilling some of these wants, wishes, and desires. But overall, he is also someone else. Fun Size's real life husband. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you again, sir.
To get into this now, it is, I have to say, it is an honor. You and I have spoken just very briefly off the mic a few times over the past few months, passed a couple of comments back and forth through your lovely wife. So this is an honor for me to get to talk to you. She and I, as you know, we have become very close friends and partners on this podcast. So I really am grateful to you for sharing her with me.
Not a problem, sir. Not a problem.
The first question that I have for you is, how did you get into BDSM?
Again, that comes down to filling around the internet, clicking links, and, oh, look what I found. And then going, this is interesting. And then making sure to keep that as on the low as possible, because I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandmother, well, as my mom puts it, my grandmother's quite the prude. So certain beliefs and views on things, don't visit my house, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
What about the actually entering into the community as far as FetLife goes?
Been on FetLife, I want to say probably about 8 years or so, maybe more, maybe less. Getting into actually doing things like tying up and using cuffs on someone, that didn't really start until I met Fun Size.
Okay. Yeah, I could see how that would definitely introduce you.
Are you saying that I might be a bad influence on my husband?
I wouldn't say bad
influence. I'd say you're a good influence.
Exactly. That's where I was going with that. So what type of experiences have you had so far? I know you keep referring to it as limited experience, but
we've used shock pads, cuffs, rope, flogger a little bit, paddle, barehanded spanking, other sorts of toys. Trying to think if there's anything else off the top of my head. My brain's kind of shutting down. Going,
It's completely okay, man. I promise. Let's see. So, as she stated in her initial interview and in other episodes, you two have not necessarily a unique relationship, but it wouldn't be something considered by your prudish grandmother to be okay, I would imagine.
My grandmother, if she knew the things we're into, things we were okay with each other, that would be a never-ending conversation. And that, not so much a conversation, more of a one-sided lecture that just would not end.
So as far as talking about your experiences that you've had so far, are all these experiences completely with Fun Size, or is this also things that you've experienced with other people?
I've done a few things with a few other people. A couple of them are ex-girlfriends. Some were just the occasional, hey, You free? Yeah, I'm free. Can I come over? Sure.
Cool. So as far as she goes, fun size, what is it like sharing a relationship with someone like her?
There's a multitude of words that come to mind, but some of the more predominant ones would have to be beautiful, exciting, at times a little intimidating just because of her sheer knowledge and experience. But at the same time, it's also I admire that and I love it about her. It's kind of that mix of awe yet intimidation that if say giant robots or monsters, you'd be like, wow, that's cool, but at the same time, a little scary. It's because, I am a fan of mecha for anime and such.
Oh, yeah.
So, if someone were to actually build something like a giant robot, particularly like a Gundam, yeah, knowing what the suit could do and how much damage it could cause, that's kind of scary when you think about it. But at the same time, I'd be like, that is an impressive feat.
I feel like I need to clarify that when he calls me scary, it's not dominatrix scary. I don't walk around our house in leather pants and corsets with heels on, cracking a whip at him.
No, it's nothing like that. Indeed, it exists.
Well, thank you. You just completely broke my fantasy there.
I am very sorry, Master Kuldrin.
Yeah, it's definitely not that kind of scary. It's very beautiful and loving. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Not for anything.
That's awesome. So other than the intimidation factor that can arise from time to time, how has BDSM affected your marriage?
I can't exactly say I have an answer to that question. I'm trying to think of an answer on how to say something and just nothing's coming to mind. We both kind of knew what we liked, and from the start when we started talking to each other and we got into it, and even before we got married, it's been part of our lives. So I can't really say it's really changed or done much in terms of affecting it. It's just part of our life. And that's one of the things I love about our marriage. We accept it, and it's there. It's like, we both had cats before we moved in together.
So BDSM is like a cat. It's just something that is there and came together and now is living in one home, huh?
Well, yeah. I guess you could say that.
What about now? I'm maybe a little bit arrogant in assuming this, but I would assume that you do listen to the show, correct?
I have listened to several of your broadcasts. I'm a little behind, unfortunately.
Okay.
My new job I started 2 weeks back I enjoy it, and I have a lot of other freedoms and feelings that I didn't used to get at my old job. I've got to say the job is way more rigorous. I'm not quite used to the form of the physical labor, but I'm getting better with it, and it's long hours. My first week, I probably did about 60 or so hours worth of work, so I'm...
Yeah, a little bit to get used to. Well, the reason that I'm asking is because a lot of episodes I talk about open communication, and that's what a lot of people, especially myself, really get out of BDSM is the fact that you have to be completely open and honest with your partners about things. So in regard to the communication aspect, and if you would, compared to previous more vanilla relationships that you've had, do you feel that maybe that is a way that BDSM has had some kind of effect of your marriage? Like it kind of forces you to be a lot more open and honest in times that maybe in the past you would have tried to sugarcoat things a little more than you should have, or something of that nature?
I'd say there's probably some effect of that nature, yeah. Fun Size is one of the people that, well, not one of, I'd just say the person who I've actually felt I can truly open up to. I've told her things I've honestly never said to anyone else before. I've been able to actually speak my mind without really feeling like I'm going to get judged or persecuted or made fun of, as just say other folks. So the fact that I can open up and talk to her so openly, I would say, yeah, it's had that kind of effect, I'd say.
Awesome. Do you two ever sing together?
Not as often as I think we'd like, but yes.
And since she's a switch, but she seems very dominant and there's that intimidation level, how does that take place, if I may?
I feel that's a question she should answer.
Well, the truth of the matter is, when we do scene together, it depends on what we need at that moment. There have been moments where he's allowed me to top him in the bedroom, but it's always under his consent of what he's willing to do, what he's willing to try, what he's interested in at that moment. But there are definitely times when he tops me. I think maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, we first tried animal play together. And while the scene wasn't necessarily our ideal at the time, but he was topping me in that scene, and it was a beautiful thing for both of us.
That's really cool that you two can do that. So looking into the future, what are your long-term goals in the lifestyle? As a dominant, do you look toward having a slave or any type of live-in submissive? Or
this is something we've talked about. I mean, the situations would have to be not what they currently are. We'd have to have, space, time,
sure,
which at this moment, there's just none of really either of those. The idea of having one is appealing to us, and it would be nice, but I try to, plan for everything and, contingency for everything, think ahead. But a golden rule about plans is best laid plans.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have what about your personal goals as far as a mastering of certain implements or fetishes, kinks, anything of that nature that you are just really interested in, that you want to just focus some energy on and spend a lot of time learning? Or
I'd say it just mainly comes around at the moment, like I said, with my own experience and what I know of. I'd say probably the whole bondage, rigging, using certain implements. While yes, I have my own want for my own gratification. Like I said before, I want to make sure the person I with gets what they need, and there is a very special person, as I'm sure we've discussed, who I would really love to be able to just have a scene with her and make her just melt and be like, wow. That leave her speechless.
Yeah. I hate that you two don't live closer. We've actually got a rigging 101 and demo coming up in August here in my local community by a master rigger who goes by Cato. Phenomenal individual. That'll be interesting. Hopefully I'll be able to record it for our website in our local archives, and you can check that out. Maybe there'll be something in there that you'll find useful. So moving on from that, what do you think of Fun Size's relationship within the lifestyle?
What do I think of it?
Yeah, how we've kind of touched on the fact that, and she has said in other episodes, she is submissive to others. She's had doms in the past, and she has also had her own collared submissive or submissives since you two have been together. So do you have any thoughts on her relationships within the lifestyle?
Yes and no. I mean, with open communication and understanding, and with the old phrase of, for a happy life, happy wife. I understand, she has needs and wants. And that's fine. We allow each other to, do what we need to do to take care of ourselves, and that's all fun. And to a degree with some of it, I guess I'd say I get a little envious sometimes, just because while I want to be social and, be able to, just go up to people and start talking and, have what people would refer to, I guess, as a regular conversation and all that, I'm very socially awkward, and it's kind of painful sometimes. So but I see that she's charisma. She talks to people, makes friends. It amazes me, and sometimes I'm like, I wish I could be like that. But my upbringing, like I said, it wasn't exactly the best case. I mean, I had a good life, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't really allowed to go out unless I had someone with me. And hey, what do you do when you're walking around the mall with your grandpa? How do you talk to people?
Yeah, that definitely puts a little crimp in your style, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and up until during my either last year in middle school or my first year in high school, like I said, anytime I wanted to go out, my grandmother insisted I take someone with me, like have my grandpa take me there, or have Luke go with me, or something like that. And just like, oh my goodness, she was a very overprotective grandmother, very loving, very caring, but oof, makes things a little awkward sometimes.
I have a side question to interject.
Okay.
How do you feel about seeing me when I have the effects of impact play, the bruises, the marks? For someone who's not a sadist, how does that feel when you have a masochist as your partner?
It kind of a mixed feeling because of my relationship with you. Well, yes, I understand your needs and your wants, and these are things that you feel that you need and, the requirements for you. And I want you to have them. I want you to be happy and satisfied. But at the same time, I don't want harm coming to you, whether it's from my hand or others. So it's kind of a dual side point there in my own head. So I do my best to just go sit back, relax, don't freak out over it. It's kind of like, like with my mom. My mom, I love her and everything, and I care for her. But my mom smokes, and I just bothers me because I don't want my mom, she's had several scares with her health and been diagnosed with several symptoms, and I worry about her, and I really don't want her to smoke. But there's really nothing I can do about it because I do understand with smoking, it's one of the, aside from illegal drugs, it's one of the harder and strongest addictions there is. So it's best to just put my hands behind my back and tell myself, sit.
That is an interesting analogy from a psychological standpoint, comparing that particular side of your relationship with your wife to how you feel about your mother smoking.
Yeah, I come up with some weird analogies. I've often been told by multiple people I walk to the beat of my own drum. And I gotta say, I probably have one of the more unique or interesting drums that there is, because people seriously are like, he's a little weird. He's okay, he's cool, but he's a little weird.
Yeah, I used to get that a lot myself. Used to. I still do on some occasions. That is a very good question, Fun Size. Thank you for throwing that in there. I think that's very telling, just how much you really love her on both sides of that coin. You're obviously very protective as a husband and a lover, but you are also very understanding of and in touch with her needs. And I don't see that a lot with someone that is willing to allow that duality to take place and then to side on the side of the other person, to say, you know what, I have to step back and sit on my hands and not say anything because that is a need that they have. So I think that's very beautiful. So to move on, what, as far as you go, stepping outside of your relationship with Fun Size, what would your ideal sub be like? What is your unicorn?
That is something I've given some thought to, but at the same time, there's things in my life if I had an ideal, this is what it would be, but at the same time, I'm very open and accepting. So it's really hard to put a point in it. I mean, what I'd want from a sub, I guess, is what I say most people do, honesty, trust, caring, openness, and willingness.
So are there any particular traits other than standards of open and honest communication that you look for in someone? I mean, obviously, there are certain things that you're into as far as play goes. So I would assume that would help shape what you look for in a sub.
There are things that I find attractive and appealing about certain people and characteristics. Like, I definitely like shy types and what's the dang word?
Brats.
Ooh.
To an extent.
Brats and rope bunnies.
That would be something because I do want to be in a bondage, so rope bunny would be a nice thing to have. I don't feel myself, like I said, as my wife stated, I'm not a sadist, so I myself don't really get off on the idea of spanking or beating. I'm more of the gentle, intimate kind of touch. So even someone like a pet or someone who likes to cuddle, I like that sense of gentleness and flirtatiousness. I'd say that's about it at the moment.
Okay. And finally, and this is completely pulling a 180 to what we've been talking about, but I really have to ask you this. As you are well aware, the Order of Avalon has been shut down, and I know that you were one of the moderators there.
Yes, I became a moderator for a very temporary amount of time.
And this is probably a very touchy subject, but a lot of our listeners had gone over to the Order of Avalon and were becoming involved there. I've got to know, what are your feelings about the closing of that website, that community?
I myself am not particularly pleased with the creator or owner of it. I thought it was a great idea. What I understood the guy stood for and his beliefs and why he created it and wanted it to be. And then to shut it down like that, especially because I understood he used to be on one site, big name on that one site, then he pulled people off that site, and that was like their site they go to, over to Avalon, just to close it down like that. I gotta say, it's like seeing your hero become a villain, if you will. It's not cool.
Are you aware that I offered to purchase the site from him?
I think I heard something about that, but I wasn't fully aware, I think.
Yeah, I made several attempts, was even going to, because he had said something about all the script that was written and all that, how much time it took, and he did not want to give that up. So I even offered to just allow all that to go away and recreate it, but keep the back end, keep all the users, and transform it into being part of our website, kuldrinscrypt.com. And that was not even refused. It was not acknowledged. He just shut down and wouldn't hear it because of personal animosities with someone within the site.
Yeah, like I said, I am personally displeased, and the admiration I used to have for him has been shattered, especially considering the fact of what he considered himself to be, something along the same lines of myself. Like I said, I have a warrior's heart. So when I see a kindred spirit of that same nature who tries to show those same virtues that I believe in, to abandon them like that, it's dishonorable. It's just something I have to shake my head at and walk away from.
Yeah, a lot of my aspects of the lifestyle come from, of course, the old school leather traditional side, but I have a lot of training in Tai Chi and other martial arts. So a lot of my personal training style when it comes to submissives and slaves is that of Asian nature. So for me, it's pretty much just a stand up and turn my back. I thought it was very much disrespectful to those that came to that site that needed it for what it was originally designed for. But anyway, is there anything that you have gotten out of the lifestyle, anything that you have learned, anything out of your marriage that has come to be something that if you're talking to somebody new or even a veteran of the lifestyle that you just get really excited about, that you just want to share with people because it has affected you in such a positive way?
To a degree, there is a current associate that I have had interest in. They have interest in me. We've talked about, what may or may not become of things, and I've talked to them about, vet life and lifestyle and trying to see if they're interested in it or not. This person is transgender. They have an interest in bondage and such. So I know there's a lot of people who accept and people who are transgender and so forth that are in the lifestyle that, accept it. And it's a very welcoming thing. So I'm kind of, trying to show them, hey, there's a place where you'll be accepted and people will, love you for who you are. Because let's face it, in terms of the vanilla world, this person has actually been denied jobs because they are transgender. The person's brought it up in their interview and they just kind of give them that, look, and it's just, I can myself know what it feels like to be alienated because you're different or you're weird. You don't march to the beat of everyone's drum. So
it's, if I'm hearing you correctly, one of your big draws to the community, not just the lifestyle, but actually being part of the community, is the acceptance from others?
To a degree, I'd say, yeah. Because you don't got to so much be afraid to act your own way.
Yeah, I was at a party last night. It was a party with kinky people, not necessarily a kink party. But one of the topics that come up was, it's not my kink. That's a very common saying that we have. Somebody was talking about a foot fetish, and I don't like feet. That is not my thing. Feet actually repulse me. So when they were talking about it, it was, for me, I'm like just kind of drawn up and shivering a little bit, just ugh.
I can understand you on that, sir. I can understand you on that.
Yeah. So, but in talking, when they were talking about that, and I made the comment like, I'm going to go over here and talk to some other people because, that's just not my kink. Just by saying that, they understood that I'm not disrespecting them. I'm not judging them. It's just not my thing. And there was no hard feelings about it. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying in that being a little bit socially awkward, which I consider myself to be at times, the acceptance is such an amazing and beautiful thing. Now, to follow up, and I know I said the question about Avalon was going to be the final question, but I've added a couple more. So that was the first one. And this one is truly the last one.
We'll see about
that. So we just kind of talked about the thing that you get the most out of the community and the lifestyle. What would you say is the biggest pitfall or the thing that you've had to overcome the most? Because everything has positives and negatives, and I really want to paint an accurate, non-biased opinion of the lifestyle. I know some people that we've talked with have kind of shied away from that because they are very much into pushing it as, it's the greatest thing. There are no negatives, but everything has some pitfalls.
Everything has pitfalls. The idea of perfection is beautiful. And while, yes, you can get things down to a science and quote perfect, but that actual perfection and perfectness is, to a degree, I'd say, nothing's perfect.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you've ran into that you've struggled with?
Well, yes, you have the acceptance and things with the lifestyle. With my own social awkwardness, I mean, I'm still somewhat of a social, what's the word I'm looking for? Pariah? People still kind of look at me a little awkwardly, and I've said things that, while intending it to be like this, it came out a different manner and was taken a different manner. I still have to watch how I speak, what I'm saying exactly, because just because you say, hey, you look nice, like in the real world, while it's supposed to be a compliment and a good thing, some people take it a bit too far. I sometimes do have a tendency to just speak, and I don't really put a lot of forethought in what I'm saying. So it gets a little challenging sometimes with that.
Gotcha.
And like with anything, any kind of community, whether it be a sports community, the kink community, you're going to run into people that are just, excuse you, what was that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, people are people.
Exactly.
I like to believe that we are a little bit more open and to how others are. But people are people.
And with being more open, I mean, that is in itself both a good and a bad thing, because some people, they take that, I can be open, and they take that a bit too far. I mean, there is such a thing as too much information. Or being a little too blunt, or being a bit too honest. It can be a good thing and a bad thing.
I was probably 10, 11 years old in a grocery store, small town. Everybody knows everybody, literally. And woman in front of us who, of course, we knew, and we knew the lady that was working there checking us out. But the conversation went, "Oh, child, I ain't seen you in a while. How are you doing?" "Oh, I'm all right. Got home a little late last night. Johnny was drunk. That's why I'm wearing these glasses. He beat on me a little bit, but, I love him to death, and I'm going to stick her." And it just led into like a 20-minute conversation, even after she paid and we had checked out. I mean, to the point where basically like she's talking to a therapist about her abusive marriage and how it's okay because he'll only do it once every 6 months or once a year. And just the incredible amount of information.
Overshare?
Yes, of overshare, that TMI moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the first time that I ever really experienced that, but it stuck with me as something that I never wanted to do, because I looked around and I saw how everyone else was looking at her, and it wasn't just like looks of pity because she was dumb enough to stay in that relationship. It was just, these looks of, my God, really? So yeah, that whole overshare issue is something that we try to avoid, I guess, but it still happens from time to time, especially the more nervous that we tend to get in a situation. I don't know if that's true for you, but some people will shut down.
It happens.
Yeah, some people will shut down, and others, that's just how they deal with an awkward situation. So,
But the first thing that comes to mind, and then you go, wait, what did I just say?
Yeah. Like, oh my God, did I really just go there? Ugh.
And then you have those moments where you're talking normally and you're, involved in the conversation. You say this instead of that, and people are like, "What'd you just say?" "I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I meant this."
Yeah. So other than some of these awkward moments, is there anything else that you would consider a pitfall that has come up? Maybe something that you've really had to deal with? I know you said how to handle fun sizes masochistic side. But other than that, is there anything else that you can think of that you've, in your relationship with her or in meeting submissives or bottoms, that you've kind of had to overcome within yourself or with others?
I can't really think of anything, so I'm going to have to say no.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, is there anything that you want to share that we haven't talked about?
Nothing comes to mind. Just to say thank you for having me on the show and look forward to talking to you more.
Absolutely. If you could have one word of advice, what would it be in closing?
Word of advice,
to newer people.
Be honest, be forward, and accept your limits and the person you're talking with limits. If you really don't feel like you want to do something or they don't want to do something, don't push it. Let it be what it is.
Absolutely. You just summed up pretty much the entire message of this podcast. So I second that. Thank you so much for joining us. Fun Size, do you have any final words, comments, questions that you would like to throw out?
No, I think he handled things pretty well with us today.
All right. Well, and that's going to wrap it up for today. Again, Irish Mountain Dragon, thank you so much for joining and for allowing me to have a few hours with your wife every Sunday to record this show.
Next week on the Krypt, we'll be talking about BDSM basic safety. In the meantime, go to kuldrinskrypt.com for show notes, how to subscribe information, and the link to our Patreon support page. Contact me directly, sir@kuldrinskrypt.com, or get in touch with Funsize at funsize@kuldrinskrypt.com. This has been Master Kuldrin and Funsize for kuldrinskrypt.com. Unearth the truth.